Texas real estate just broke. Not crashed, not corrected. Broke. As in someone listed an 8,300 square foot estate on 33 acres with a pool, an outdoor kitchen, and a 10-car garage, and the entry price looks like a truck payment. That is where we are starting today, and it only gets stranger from there. 11 properties, one state, prices that will make you question whether you understand how money works. And fair warning, when we get to the last house, do not assume you know what kind of listing you are looking at. It wears a disguise. Stick around and you will see why it made the list. Stay locked in. Every single property on this list has a reason it made the cut. Property 1, Conroe, Texas. Stidham Road. 6-bed, 9-bath, 8,300 square feet, 33 acres. Start here, and everything else on the internet feels overpriced. This is 8,300 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, 33 acres of Texas land. And the house does not skimp on a single room. Family room, game room, full media room, walk-in pantry, kitchen island, engineered hardwood floors, 2 fireplaces, a wraparound porch, a deck, an outdoor kitchen with full setup, a private in-ground pool, and a 10-car garage that is bigger than most apartment complexes. Read that again. 10 cars. This is not a house, this is a compound, and for a buyer who is thinking clearly, it is also a business. Here's what that means. Private estate wedding venues in Texas, comparably sized properties with a pool, grounds, outdoor kitchen, and event-ready space run anywhere from $6,000 to over $8,000 for a single Saturday booking. That is one event, one weekend. Venues that are booked 30 to 40 weekends a year at that rate are generating $200,000 or more annually from a property that costs a fraction of what similar revenue-producing real estate runs in any major Texas city. The outdoor kitchen, the pool, the porch, the acreage, these are not just amenities, they are line items on a venue rental sheet. If you never host a single event, you still have one of the most outrageous value plays in this state. If you do, the land is an asset, the kitchen is a revenue tool, the pool is the brochure photo, and the garage fits the whole wedding party's cars. Property 2, Aledo, Texas. $100,000. South FM 5. 5-bed, 4-bath, 4,478 square feet, 10 acres. Aledo, Texas sits west of Fort Worth in Parker County, one of the fastest growing areas in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. Land out here does not sit around, which is part of why this one is hard to explain. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, nearly 4,500 square feet, built in 1983 on 10 acres, behind a gated entry with an electric gate and a 3-car setup. And then there is the heated gunite in-ground pool and spa out back, built-in shelving throughout, 2 fireplaces, a wraparound porch, a deck, an outdoor kitchen with full setup, in-ground spa, and brand new professional paint job all throughout in 2022. But here's the layer that makes this one different from everything else on the list. This property can be offered as one estate, or it can be divided into 2 separate tracts. Buyers can come in for the whole thing, or structure a bit around part of it. That is not a standard residential sale. That is a strategic land play wrapped inside a luxury home listing. It's the kind of deal that someone with a sharp pencil and a quiet phone call lines up before it ever gets any real attention. 10 acres outside Fort Worth, a compound on one side of the fence and developable land on the other, potentially. The house alone would justify the interest. The flexibility makes it something more. Property 3, Newton, Texas, $90,900. 297 County Road 3035. 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,200 square feet, 5 acres. Not every property on this list is trying to impress you with square footage, and this one does not try. Newton is deep East Texas. Pine trees, creek bottoms, the kind of country where deer cross the road more often than cars do. Sitting on 5 acres of it is a log cabin-style house that looks like it was pulled from a lifestyle magazine for people who gave up on cities for the right reasons. Inside, 10-foot vaulted ceilings, warm wood interior, a wood-burning stove, a large pantry, and ceiling fans in every room. Outside, a half wraparound deck, a Dutch-style storage barn, and a crepe myrtle-lined driveway that makes arriving feel intentional. 1,200 square feet. Small by most measures, but on 5 wooded East Texas acres with a stove, a porch, and a barn, small is the point. The right buyer here is not someone who needs more bedrooms. It is someone who needs fewer neighbors. Property 4. Katy, Texas. $85,000. 2095 Mule Ridge Drive. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,352 square feet, built 2020. Everything so far has been either estate scale or wilderness escape. This one is neither, and that is exactly why it belongs here. Katy sits on the western edge of the Houston Metro, right at the intersection of Highway 99 and I-10, arguably one of the best-positioned suburban corridors in Texas for commuting, schools, and long-term value. A 2020 build in that location is not an accident. It is a real house in a real place where people actually want to live. 3 beds, 2 baths, 1 story, and the backyard connects directly to the subdivision lake. Not views of a lake, access to a lake. That distinction matters more than most listings ever admit. The Freeman Ranch community adds a splash pad, multiple playgrounds, a picnic gazebo, and a full recreation field on top of that. Built in 2020, 1 story, mechanicals current, finishes modern. The waterfront access puts the backyard in a different category from every other house on the street, most immediately livable property on the entire list. Property 5, Lefors, Texas, $85,000. 216 West 5th Street, 4-bed, 1-bath, 2,102 square feet, built in 1930. Gray County, Texas, west of Amarillo, population somewhere around 500 people, outside city limits, and here sits a 4-bedroom, 2,100 square foot house built in 1930 that someone has quietly been turning into something worth paying attention to. Because this is not a raw fixer-upper. The work is already happening. New flooring throughout, a freshly remodeled bathroom, a brand new kitchen with new cabinetry, granite countertops, and a farmhouse sink that looks like it belongs in a house that costs significantly more. Brand new HVAC system, brand new ductwork, a gas stove, refrigerator, dishwasher, and microwave already in place, a detached 2-car garage out back. The house is a 1930 build. Bones are old, character is real. The problem with old houses is never the character, it's the chaos of figuring out what needs work. Someone has already taken a large bite out of that problem. The kitchen is done, the floors are done, the HVAC is brand new. Property 6, Corpus Christi, Texas, $89,900. 902 Hancock Ave, 5-bed, 3-bath, 2,508 square feet, built in 1970. Corpus Christi sits on the Gulf Coast, and the real estate conversation down there tends to center on water access and lot size in a way that most inland Texas markets never quite match. So when a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house on a nearly 11,000 square foot lot shows up with a newer roof and a detached structure out back, that gets a second look. The main house is 2 stories, 2,500 square feet. 5 bedrooms means this is genuinely big enough for a family or for a buyer who needs dedicated office space, a gym, a creative room, whatever the extra square footage gets repurposed into. But the detached garage apartment is the real conversation.
Corpus Christi's short-term rental market exists because of proximity to the water and Padre Island. A detached structure with its own living setup on a nearly quarter-acre urban lot is the kind of asset that changes the math on a property purchase. That second structure can be rented long-term to cover carrying costs. It can become guest quarters for family visits. It can serve as a private studio or workspace, or all of the above, depending on the season. Before we hit the back half of this list, there is a legal reality you need to understand about Texas that makes it different from Georgia or Florida, and most buyers never hear about it until they have already made a mistake. Texas is a non-disclosure state. That means when a house sells, the price is not public record. The sold price you see on Zillow and Texas is a guess. It is an estimate, an algorithm, a best attempt. It is not a fact. In states like Georgia and Florida, every sale gets recorded with the county and becomes searchable data. In Texas, that number stays between the buyer, the seller, and the title company. Here's why that matters for every property on this list. If you were looking at any of these deals and trying to calculate a flip margin, trying to figure out what comparable houses actually sold for, what the spread is, what the real after-repair value looks like, you are flying blind unless you have a relationship with a title company or an agent with direct MLS access. In Texas, market data is a gate-kept asset. If you don't have it, you aren't investing, you're gambling with better-looking odds. This is not a reason to avoid Texas, it's a reason to build the right relationships before you pull the trigger on anything in this state. An agent with MLS pull or a title company contact in the county where you are buying is not optional here. It's the only way to work with real numbers. Know the rules before you play the game. Here's the thing about this list that I want you to sit with for a second. We are 6 properties deep, and we have covered an 8,300 square foot event venue compound, a 10-acre tract play outside Fort Worth, a Gulf Coast 2-structure income property, and a waterfront suburban home built in 2020, and we are not done. The next house has a bonus room with its own full kitchen inside the main structure. After that, a property that puts you walking distance from a refinery complex that employs more than 5,000 people and anchors 1 in every 7 jobs in the region. Then a house sitting in the shadow of the largest employer in all of West Texas. Then a Plano listing that makes 0 sense for the market it's sitting in, and we found the numbers that explain why it matters. And then the last one. We saved it for the end on purpose. Do not leave before you see what it actually is. Stay right here. Property 7, Hebbronville, Texas, $83,853. 205 E Santa Clara Street, 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,773 square feet, built in 2011. Jim Hogg County sits in deep South Texas, about halfway between Laredo and McAllen. It is not a market most buyers think about first, which is a reasonable explanation for why a brick construction house built in 2011 with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a bonus room with its own kitchen and half bath is sitting here at this number. The bonus room is the part worth pausing on. A house with a separate space and its own living setup works for more than one living arrangement. Multi-generational households, a home office with a kitchenette, a guest house setup without a separate structure. Flexibility built into a 2011 brick construction is more house than the square footage suggests on paper. The main living area has ceramic tile floors, central air, central electric heat, a covered carport, and a covered barbecue area in the back. It's walking distance from banks, the public library, and local restaurants, which means it's not isolated, it's just quiet.
Property 8, Beaumont, Texas, $65,000. 2180 Tyler Street, 4-bed, 2-bath, 2,740 square feet, 1.25 acres, as is. There is a version of every real estate purchase where the math is the only thing that matters. Square footage, acreage, tenant pool, and room to work. This is that property. Here is why Beaumont's matters more than the listing lets on. ExxonMobil operates one of the largest refinery and petrochemical complexes in the United States, right there in Beaumont. 2,700 acres of integrated refinery, chemical plant, ethylene plant, and lubricant operations. Over 2,000 employees on site daily, plus roughly 3,000 contractors rotating in for construction and turnaround work. ExxonMobil's own data shows its Beaumont operations account for approximately 1 in every 7 jobs in the entire region. That is not a statistic. That is a tenant pool. Contractors on short-term assignment in Beaumont need somewhere to live. They are not buying, they are renting. A 4-bedroom, 2,740 square foot house on an acre and a quarter is not a hard sell to a contract worker making refinery wages who needs space for 6 months. The as-is disclosure means the price reflects condition, not the location, not the tenant market, not the 5,000 workers within 10 miles of this address. Breakfast room, living room, wood-burning fireplace, solid surface countertops, a gas range, washer-dryer hookups already in. The structure is there. The market is there. The math.
A 2,740 square foot house in Beaumont, as is, likely needs a $40,000 to $60,000 gut rehab. But in a market anchored by 5,000 refinery workers, you are not renting to families on fixed budgets. You are renting to turnaround contractors, skilled trades on short rotations who need furnished space fast and are paid to be here. Furnished rentals in this market can command $3,000 or more per month during refinery maintenance cycles. Your all-in cost at $130,000 gets fully recouped in under 4 years. That math does not work in many places in Texas. It works here because ExxonMobil is a permanent employer and turnaround cycles run on a schedule. Property 9, Abilene, Texas. $99,900. 749 Poplar Street, 4-bed, 2-bath, 2,252 square feet, built in 1925. 100 years old and still standing, and sitting in a city with one of the most stable tenant anchors in the state of Texas. Dyess Air Force Base is about 7 miles southwest of downtown Abilene. It is home to the 7th Bomb Wing, the 317th Airlift Group, B-1B bombers, and C-130J aircraft. More than 5,000 military and civilian personnel are assigned there, making it the single largest employer in the entire region by a significant margin. The Texas Comptroller's Office calculated that the population directly affiliated with Dyess contributed at least $3.6 billion to the Texas economy in 2023, and the base has 988 units of family housing, which sounds like a lot until you realize it is nowhere near enough for everyone stationed there. The overflow lives off-base, in Abilene, in houses like this one. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2,252 square feet on 1/3 of an acre, built in 1925, a century of construction in a city where rental demand is tied to a federal installation going nowhere. The challenge is the systems, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and the price already accounts for that. What the price does not account for is a ready-made demand driver 7 miles down the road. Dyess is the economic anchor here.
Property 10, Plano, Texas, $100,000. 836 Snapdragon Lane. 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,275 square feet, built 1993. Plano does not belong on this list, and yet, here it is. Plano is one of the most well-regarded suburbs in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, consistently ranked in the top tier for schools, safety, job access, and quality of life. The median home value in Plano is not a number that typically shows up in conversations about budget housing. Toyota North America is headquartered here. Liberty Mutual is here. The corporate corridor along the Sam Rayburn Tollway is the kind of employer concentration that keeps a rental market healthy regardless of what the broader economy is doing. Which is exactly why this property makes sense in a completely different way than anything else on the list. A 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,275 square foot house in Plano does not sit vacant. Corporate relocation is a real and consistent demand driver in this market. Furnished corporate rentals in Plano, 4 bedrooms, single family, run between $6,000 and $8,000 a month for short-term assignments. That is the market. That is who is looking for this type of house in this zip code. The question the listing raises is simple. What does the condition look like that puts this here? Sometimes it is cosmetic. Sometimes it is deferred maintenance. Whatever the answer, the address is real, the demand is real, and the gap between this price and what Plano typically trades at is real. Built in 1993, 2-story, 2-car attached garage, fireplace. The structure is established. The location is irreplaceable. The strategy. A $70,000 house in Plano is almost certainly carrying a foundation issue or a ground lease. That is the condition that creates a price that does not belong in this market. But even if you have to spend $100,000 on a slab lift and a full cosmetic reset, you are all in at $170,000 in a city where the median home value sits around $550,000.
That gap between your basis and the market is called equity capture. Professionals spend entire careers hunting for that kind of spread. Most never find it in a market this established. Okay, 10 houses, 9 legitimate investment angles, 1 East Texas retreat, 1 Gulf Coast income property, 1 West Texas military rental market, and 1 Plano corporate relocation play. But I found one more, and this is the one that is going to make you mad.
Bonus property. Austin, Texas. $32,000. 8212 Barton Club Drive /1. 3-bed, 4-bath, Barton Creek Resort and Spa. This is not a house. It looks like a house. The listing has bedrooms, it has 4 bathrooms, it has granite counters in the primary and a full appliance package: dishwasher, disposal, washer, dryer, microwave, refrigerator, trash compactor, gas water heater. It is at Barton Creek Resort and Spa in Austin, which is one of the most sought-after addresses in the city. Here is the part the listing buries. What you are purchasing is fractional ownership, 27 days of access per year. Not ownership in the traditional sense, usage rights in a shared structure at a resort property in Austin. 27 days. The appliances are real, the granite is real, the Barton Creek address is real, the 4 bathrooms are real. The other 338 days of the year when someone else is using the property are also real. This is a timeshare wrapped in a real estate listing format, and it is on this list because it is the perfect ending. It looks like the most polished property in the group. The address is the most famous. The interior photos probably look the best, and the moment you understand what you are actually buying, the whole thing flips. That is Texas real estate right now. An 8,300 square foot estate on 33 acres with an event venue attached, a military city with 5,000 built-in tenants, a Plano address sitting in a corporate relocation market, and a luxury resort property in Austin where the fine print tells you to enjoy your 27 days. The fine print is the whole story here. 11 properties, 1 state. One of them is not even a real purchase. Drop a comment below. What state do you want us to dig into next? Because we've been looking at Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio, and Florida, and every one of them has its own version of this conversation. Some of those markets are even harder to explain than Texas. Subscribe if you want to be there when we find them. We are just getting started.